I was 66 when I met her. Gentle, patient, honest, or so I thought. Minutes before our wedding, my daughter showed me a message on her phone. My bride and my son were planning how to split what's left of my life. My name is Leonard Hale. I was 66 years old when I stood in a church dressing room, staring at the man in the mirror and wondering if I still recognized him. The jacket fit too tight around the shoulders. The tie kept drifting left. Dana had picked it out. She said Navy made me look dependable. I told her I wasn't running for office, but she smiled and said, "Just for me, Len. Today's for both of us." That was her charm, always calm, always sure she knew what was best. A knock came on the door. 3 short raps. My daughter's knock. "Come in," I said. Lisa slipped inside and closed the door quick behind her. Her face was pale. Her phone was in her hand, shaking slightly. "You okay?" I asked. "No," she said. "Sit down." I didn't. I watched her set the phone in my palm. The screen was already unlocked, a message thread open. I didn't need to scroll far. "Dana, once the ring's on, we'll start moving the assets. You'll handle the accounts. I'll keep the house and the cabin." Eric. "He'll never see it coming. Just let him think he's in charge." Dana. "It's only a few more weeks. Then we move." I felt my pulse slow, not quicken. Like my body refused to help me feel what I should. Lisa said quietly, "They've been planning it since March. She tells Eric everything, your prescriptions, your passwords, even when you nap." The phone felt heavy in my hand. "You're sure?" "She forwarded it by mistake. I copied it before she deleted it." Her voice cracked. "Dad, we can leave right now. You don't have to go through with this." I slipped the phone into my jacket pocket. "The wedding's still on." Lisa blinked. "You can't mean that." "I mean exactly that. They expect an easy mark. Let's not ruin their surprise." She stared at me. "You've got something planned?" "Not yet," I said, "but I will. They think I'm blind, but they'll learn otherwise." When she left, the silence pressed close again. I looked at the man in the mirror, older, slower, maybe too trusting, but not finished. The organ started playing outside. Guests murmured. I straightened my tie and smiled at the reflection. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. 2 years earlier, I met Dana at a grief group in a church basement that smelled of coffee and lemon polish. She was late, hair pulled back, sweater too big for her shoulders. She apologized, then sat across from me with a careful kind of grace. Afterward, she asked if I wanted lunch. I said yes because it had been too long since anyone had asked. At the diner, she told me she'd lost her husband to a stroke. I said I'd lost my wife, Evelyn, to cancer. We didn't cry. We talked about the silence afterward, how it filled every room like water in a sinking boat. She listened well. So well it made you want to keep talking. A week later, she called. Then another. By winter, we saw each other every few days. She was kind, helpful, and always there when the house felt too empty. That sort of presence sneaks up on you. It starts with comfort and ends with dependence. When she met Lisa, my daughter was polite but guarded. "She's nice," Lisa said, "but fast." I told her not to be suspicious of kindness. Eric was the opposite. "Finally," he said, "someone who gets you." He started visiting again, bringing tools, fixing things I hadn't asked him to fix. I should have wondered why. By spring, Dana had moved in part-time. She said she didn't want me alone. She cooked, cleaned, even reorganized my files. One afternoon, I came home and found the attic half empty. Boxes labeled "Donate" lined the hallway. "What's all this?" I asked. She smiled. "Clearing space for better days." Later, I found an old photo, Evelyn holding baby Lisa, tossed in a stack of extras. I didn't confront her. I just slid it back into the frame beside my bed. The next morning, the frame was gone. When I asked, she said, "It didn't fit the new color scheme." I said nothing, but something shifted then, quiet and certain. A small voice whispering that I was losing ground in my own home. Still, I let her stay. Something felt off, but I still let her in. After a few months, Dana wasn't visiting anymore. She lived there. Her coffee mug sat beside mine in the sink every morning. Her slippers waited under the couch. There were jackets on my hooks that didn't belong to me. She called it settling in, like it was something that just happened on its own. I told myself it was fine. I'd been alone long enough. The house had been quiet since Evelyn passed, and I'd convinced myself that quiet wasn't the same as peace. But there were moments when I'd walk into a room and have to stop and think, whose place was this? The old wallpaper was gone from the hallway. Dinah said it was dated. Evelyn had picked it 20 years ago, and I still remembered the day she made me help hang it. Dana replaced it with some modern pattern, white and gray, no warmth. She swapped the photos too. My wedding picture with Evelyn ended up in a box under the stairs. When I found it, I said nothing. She smiled and said, "Oh, I meant to put that somewhere safe." Lisa noticed everything. "Dad," she said one afternoon, "why is Mom's portrait gone?" "She's putting it in a new frame," I said. Lisa crossed her arms. "She's putting it in storage." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I wasn't sure. "It's just a house," I said instead. "No," Lisa said. "It's your life, and she's rearranging it." She left angry. I didn't stop her. Eric was different. He stopped by almost every week now, all smiles and handshakes. Said Dana was good for me, said it was nice seeing me with someone again. Then he'd bring up practical things. The house, the cabin, the accounts. "You should think about updating the will," he told me one day while helping Dana move boxes into the attic. "It's just smart planning. If something happens, it'll save everyone a lot of trouble." "Nothing's happening," I said. "Yeah, but Dad," he started. Dana cut in gently. "Eric's just thinking ahead, Len. No harm in it." I nodded, but it didn't sit right. They shared a quick look, the kind you almost miss. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house in the dark. Every corner felt smaller somehow. Evelyn's clock on the mantel was gone, replaced by a candle. Her old books were boxed up in the closet. The jewelry box on the dresser was open, empty except for a single earring. When Dana came downstairs the next morning, she smiled like nothing had changed. She poured herself coffee and walked away. I sat there a long time, staring at her cup beside mine. The same brand I'd bought for Evelyn. The same spot she used to sit. It didn't feel like grief anymore. It felt like replacement. But I didn't say a word. Because at that point, I still wanted to believe I hadn't invited my own undoing. And that kind of lie can keep a man quiet for a long time. I didn't recognize my mistake back then. Now is my time to fix everything. They would not expect what I'm about to do as my revenge. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Lisa and I spoke more in the car. Not in some dramatic moment under a spotlight. We hadn't spoken like that in weeks. Not really. She'd been pulling away ever since Dana moved in. I don't blame her. She saw it sooner than I did. But this morning, today, she was still there, beside me. I don't remember her saying much. She didn't need to. Her face told most of it. Disgust, anger, sadness she was trying hard not to show. She handed me the phone again. I didn't look at it. I'd already read the messages 3 times. I kept seeing the same words in my mind. Start moving the assets. He won't question it. A few more weeks. Eric. My only son. And Dana. The woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my days with. Together, picking apart the pieces of my life like it was already over. There was no panic anymore. Not like when I first read them. Now it felt cold. settled, like something in me had gone still, and that stillness made room for planning. I've been slow with some things in life, feelings mostly, but I've never been slow with structure. And I saw the structure here. A slow campaign, quiet influence. First the house, then the names, then the assets, all under the flag of help. I let it happen. Not because I was stupid, but because I wanted it to be real. I wanted to believe Dana cared, that Eric had come back for family, not money, that the silence after Evelyn died could be filled again with something that felt like warmth. But what they wanted wasn't connection. It was control. And I finally saw it. All of it. Lisa sat in the seat beside me, arms crossed, watching the church steps through the windshield like she was waiting for a fire to start. She didn't need to tell me I'd been naive. That was clear enough. What mattered now was that she was here. And that meant I wasn't alone. That changed everything. 2 weeks ago I started moving the accounts just in case. Retitled the properties. Shifted control of the trust. Quiet steps. Buried paperwork. The kind of precautions you take when your gut starts whispering at you before your head catches up. Now I knew that this was a right step. I became a bit more relaxed. Let them stand at the altar today. Let them think they're walking into a payday. By the time they realize what's missing, they'll be locked out of the life they tried to steal. And the only one left standing beside me will be the one who never wanted anything from me but the truth. I saw another memory. It wasn't long ago. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe a little less. Hard to keep track now. Everything between then and this morning feels blurred around the edges like film left too long in the sun. But I remember the tone. I remember her smile. We were sitting in the kitchen. Late dinner. Nothing special. Some chicken she'd pulled from the freezer. A bagged salad. She talked while she cleared the dishes, wiping the counter like the words didn't matter much. "You ever get around to updating the will?" she asked, not even glancing at me. I didn't answer right away. I folded my napkin, took a sip of water, let the quiet sit between us. "It's just practical," she said after a beat. "You know that. We're about to be married. It should reflect the new reality." The new reality. That was the phrase she used. Polished. Clean. No room for uncertainty. It wasn't a question. It was her version of a handshake agreement. In her mind, I'd already agreed. The paperwork was just a loose end. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't pretending anymore. The careful patience from our early months had turned into quiet expectation. She had settled in, rearranged the rooms, replaced what came before. Now she wanted the signature. The final seal. "I've been meaning to," I said, matching her tone. She smiled, rinsed a dish, said, "Good." That was it. No warmth. No thank you. No talk about what that meant. Just good. Like closing a drawer. Like ticking a box. I nodded. Went to bed early that night. She stayed up, said she had calls to make. I didn't ask who with. I already knew. The next morning I made the real call. My lawyer's number hadn't changed in 10 years. Neither had the password on the trust. What had changed was my willingness to use it. So I did. And now, standing in the back hallway of this church, listening to the soft hum of prelude music through the closed doors, I think about that conversation, and I almost feel sorry for her. She thinks she's already in. She thinks her name sits on every line that matters. But the truth is, it never even made the draft. That same week, maybe 3 days after Dana brought up the will, Eric came by again. No reason. Just showed up with takeout and a grin like he was doing me a favor. He'd started doing that a lot, dropping in, calling more, not with questions about me, but with ideas, suggestions. Opportunities, he liked to call them, always spoken in that light, careful tone like he was thinking for both of us. He said he just wanted to help. that it was good to be closer again. Said Dana made the house feel like a place worth visiting. I let him say those things. Let him fill the room with noise while I listened for the parts that weren't spoken. That afternoon, while Dana was upstairs, supposedly sorting through old linens, Eric leaned over the kitchen counter and asked if I'd ever thought about converting the cabin. "You barely use it anymore," he said, tapping a spoon against his coffee mug. "Could bring in some rental income. I mean, long term. It's just sitting there." I told him the cabin wasn't built for profit. He smiled. "Right. Of course. But think of it this way. You fix it up, keep it in the family, but make it carry itself." Smart estate planning. Smart estate planning. It landed different after Dana's question about the will, and the timing wasn't a coincidence. I gave a small nod, pretending to consider it and change the subject, but he came back to it 2 days later and again a week after that. By the fourth time, he was talking numbers. Not for me, for him. By then, the rhythm was clear. Dana softened me up. Eric ran the pitch. She played warm, he played smart. I was supposed to be grateful either way. And maybe I would have been once. Before I noticed what was missing. They never asked how I was feeling. Never asked what I wanted done with the cabin. Never asked what mattered to me. Just what could be done with it. What could be used. One evening, I came home from an errand and heard them in the study. Dana was at the desk typing. Eric stood beside her, pointing at the screen. I could see the glow through the hallway as I walked in. They didn't jump when I opened the door. "Hey, Dad," Eric said, too casual. "Just going over some of the files." Dana had a few questions about the account layouts, so I figured I'd walk her through. I looked at the screen. It was the financial summary I'd saved on an old USB. Private backup, meant to be separate. Dinah had said she was organizing documents for taxes. Must have found it and opened it without asking. I didn't speak. I didn't move. Just watched them for a second longer than was comfortable, then turned and walked back down the hall. They didn't follow. That night, I checked the bottom drawer in the cabinet, the one where I used to keep the binder with my passwords and legacy plans. The binder was gone. In its place was a labeled folder in Dana's handwriting, with tabbed sections and color-coded sheets. A new system, built without asking. On my nightstand, the notepad where I kept handwritten reminders had been rewritten. Newer pen, neater script. Mine was shaky these days. Hers was perfect. I didn't say anything that night, or the next. But I started locking the desk again. And the next time Eric brought up the cabin, I told him without blinking, "It's already taken care of." He paused, gave me that smile he used when he was 13 and trying to talk his way out of detention. "You sure?" he said. "I'm sure," I said. He didn't ask again. But from then on, I stopped believing that either of them ever truly came by to see me. They were just mapping out what they'd already decided would be theirs. The betrayal was no longer hidden back then. And now, after I saw their message, I would make them pay. I was outside of the sanctuary. The music has changed, softer now, orchestral. Dana picked it, said she wanted something timeless. People are seated. The pastor's ready. The photographer's pacing near the vestibule with his lens cap off and nervous energy in his stride. He doesn't know he's about to document the start of an ending. My suit's pressed, ties straight, cufflinks locked in. From the outside, I look the part. Groom partner. Steady old man finally moving on. Inside, the phone in my pocket buzzes once. A message from Lisa. Simple. "I'll be in the back row. If you need a signal, I don't need one. I've already made my call. I didn't waste the last hour. I knew what to do and exactly how. It was my time to strike. The printouts are in my inside jacket pocket. The trust documents are in Lisa's name. The copies of Dana's messages, including the one where she jokes about getting the gold before the clock runs out, are sealed and time-stamped. The real files are already at the attorney's office. The envelope in my pocket is just insurance. I am ready. She thinks it's done. She thinks this walk down the aisle is the last step before she has everything. But I'm not walking toward her. I'm walking her into the truth, and when the ceremony ends, only one of us will leave with what we came for. The ceremony was short. That's how Dana wanted it. No fluff, she'd said. Just vows and family. So we kept it clean. 10 minutes. Readings, rings, done. The pastor pronounced us. We posed for photos on the church steps while the guests clapped like they meant it. Eric stood near me in every photo, his hand on my back like we were friends again, like he hadn't tried to dismantle my life from the inside. I smiled. I smiled the whole way through. The reception was in the church hall. White chairs, a modest buffet, cheap champagne. Dana said it felt tasteful. To me, it felt temporary. Halfway through the toasts, Lisa raised her glass and said nothing, just lifted it toward me and took a slow sip. Dana noticed, but said nothing. Then the pastor gestured. "Leonard, would you like to say a few words?" I stood, took the mic, looked out at the room. Not a big crowd, mostly her friends, a few neighbors. My circle had always been small. And after Evelyn passed, smaller still. Dana sat at the head table, napkin folded neatly in her lap, smiling. I tapped the mic once. "I want to thank you all for being here," I said, "especially those who've stayed close during this chapter of my life. I know it hasn't been an easy one." Heads nodded, a few murmurs. "Love, in your later years," I continued, "teaches you different things than love in your youth. You don't just learn how to give it. You learn how people use it, what it covers, what it costs." Dana's smile faltered just slightly. "I've made mistakes," I said. "Big ones. But there's something about losing everything that makes you careful, and something about silence that makes you listen." I reached into my jacket and took out a sealed envelope. I didn't open it. I just held it in my hand. "In the spirit of transparency," I said, "this envelope holds everything someone would need to understand what today really is. Who's in this room for love, and who's here for the leftovers?" A beat of silence. You could hear a fork clink 3 tables away. I didn't look at Dana. I didn't have to. I already felt her breath go shallow. "I won't say more," I said. "Not here. But some truths have already been shared privately. Others will be handled where they belong." I raised my glass, still calm. "To those who've stayed for the right reasons." And then I sat down. Dana didn't speak. Eric's hand dropped off the table. Lisa watched them both, face steady, unflinching. The party went on, but the air had changed. People smiled, but it was thinner now. A layer had been peeled back, and everyone knew it. I flipped the power dynamic. They didn't say anything at the reception, not to me. Dana kept smiling, but her grip on her wineglass tightened with every minute. Eric left before dessert. Said something about a work call. No one believed him. We didn't speak in the car ride home. The silence wasn't heavy, it was surgical. At the front door, Dana reached into her purse for her keys. I unlocked the door before she could. Let her walk in first. She stopped just past the entryway, looked around. Something was different. She didn't know what yet, but she felt it. I'd spent the morning resetting everything. New access codes, accounts scrubbed clean, the old desk in the study locked, the safe relocated. Her name gone from anything that ever mattered. She stood in the kitchen like a stranger. "Len?" she asked. I walked past her and set the envelope on the counter, the same one I held during the toast. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. She stared at it like it might explode. "I read it all," I said quietly. "The messages, the plans, the way you two mapped it out like I wouldn't notice. Like I didn't matter." Dana stepped back, just half a pace. Composed, but smaller now. "I don't know what you think you found." "I found enough," I said. She opened her mouth again. I raised a hand and she closed it. "I'm not calling the police," I said. "Not yet. But if you try to fight me on any of it, the property, the trust, the will, everything goes public. That envelope is already with the attorney, and my daughter has a copy." Dana's eyes flicked toward the living room, toward the staircase, maybe looking for Eric, maybe just looking for an exit. "You were right about one thing," I added. "This house was too full of ghosts. But now it's clean. You won't be staying here." "I have a right to—" "No," I said. "You have nothing." She didn't move, just stood there, blinking slow. I left the room. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just walked upstairs and shut the bedroom behind me. The next morning she was gone. Keys on the counter, ring beside them. And for the first time in 2 years the house felt quiet. Not like a warning, but like a choice. Eric came by 2 days later. Not to apologize, not even to explain. He walked through the back gate like he used to when he was 16, face tight, jaw working overtime, like he was preparing to negotiate with someone he still thought was soft. He didn't knock, just marched up the steps and met me on the back porch. "You didn't have to humiliate her," he said. I didn't look up from my paper. He stepped closer. "What you did at the reception—" I was calm, I said. "You don't know what humiliation looks like. You've never seen me angry." He scoffed. "You could have just talked to us." "I tried," I said. "Years ago. When Mom died. When you stopped coming around. You made your position clear back then. I was an obligation, not a father." "That's not fair," he said. "No," I said. "But it's accurate." He paused, just a half second, long enough to let truth hit before pride stepped back in. "She didn't mean for it to go that far," he said. "It was just— we thought you needed help." "You thought I needed handling," I corrected. "You think locking her out and cutting me off fixes this?" "I don't think it," I said. "It already has." He looked like he wanted to argue, but the heat was gone now. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't chasing, I wasn't meeting him where he lived. In emotion, in reaction. I was simply done. He stared at me for a long time. "You actually changed the will." "Completely." "And the trust?" "Moved. Secured. With Lisa." That one landed. I saw it in his jaw, in the way he turned his head slightly like I'd slapped him without moving. "You don't trust me," he said. "Trust doesn't survive theft," I said. "It ends there." He looked at the yard, the old swing set still rusted in the corner. His childhood was still planted here, but his future was not. "You didn't even call me first," he muttered. "Didn't give me a chance." "You had 2 years of chances," I said. "You spent them measuring my house and pricing out the cabin." He didn't answer that. When he left, he didn't say goodbye, just let the gate swing shut behind him without latching it. I didn't get up to fix it. Some doors don't need closing. They close themselves. The first letter came by certified mail. Dana had retained counsel. Someone slick, someone expensive. A name I recognized from my years practicing. She was playing the only card left, implied promises, shared domestic life, unjust enrichment. She wanted a piece of what was never hers. I handed it to my attorney. He scanned it. His face didn't change. "She's bluffing," he said. "She's hoping you'll settle to avoid the noise." "I won't," I said. We filed a preemptive motion. Full documentation attached. Messages, timeline, witnesses, a record of financial transfers, or rather the absence of them. The lawyer said it was the cleanest pre-defense he'd seen in 20 years. Within a week, Dana's tone shifted. Her lawyer reached out, this time interested in a dignified resolution. That meant no lawsuit, no press, if we agreed to walk away quietly. I didn't respond. My silence was the answer. The second letter never came. Eric made one more attempt, not to sue, but to smooth it over. Said he didn't want to blow things up. Said he'd overreached. I didn't answer that either. Instead, I forwarded the messages to my attorney, not as evidence, just as a reminder. He'd earned his place on the outside. Lisa kept quiet through all of it. She didn't gloat. She didn't say, "I told you so," but she came by more often now. Cooked dinner on Tuesdays, asked about the old fishing rods in the garage, asked if I wanted to try again next spring, maybe the lake house, just us. I said yes. The house is quieter now, clean. Not the kind of quiet that comes from absence, the kind that comes from finality. Settled dust, closed chapters. There are no lawsuits, no shared accounts, no keys handed out. And the next time someone steps through my door, it'll be because they belong. It was Eric who asked for the meeting. Dana didn't reach out again. She knew better now. The moment she left her keys on the counter, she'd surrendered whatever mask she was still holding. But Eric, he thought there was still a middle, still a bridge between us that hadn't burned. He asked to meet at the cafe we used to visit after church, said it was neutral ground, said he just wanted to talk. I agreed, not for closure, not for kindness. I needed to see what was left of the son I'd raised, if there was anything left at all. He was already sitting at the back when I arrived, same coat he used to wear in law school, expensive and clean, but the collar curled slightly now. The arrogance didn't shine like it used to. It just sat there, heavy. He stood when he saw me, but I didn't offer a handshake. I sat. Let the silence speak first. He cleared his throat. "I know you're angry." I didn't respond. He tried again. "I messed up. I should have stopped her when I saw where it was going, but I didn't know it would turn into this." Still, I said nothing. He leaned forward. "You think I did this to hurt you, but I thought you were slipping. You weren't the same after Mom died. The house, the money, you weren't managing any of it. I thought if I stepped in—" "You didn't step in," I said finally. "You circled. You waited. You watched. You weighed the pieces like a vulture." His face went tight. "That's not fair." "It's not?" I said. "You used my grief like an opening. You let her rewrite my home while you looked the other way. You didn't protect me. You positioned yourself." He looked down at the table. I continued. "Your mother trusted you to carry our name with dignity. You turned it into a business plan. I didn't know she'd go that far. You didn't care if she did." That one stuck. He leaned back like I'd taken something from him. We sat like that for a while. No coffee, no movement, just breath and wood, and the sound of a clock ticking above the pastry case. I looked at him, not as a father, not as a victim, just as a man looking across at another man who'd failed his measure. "I spent 40 years building a legacy," I said, "and in 2 months you tried to strip it for parts." He looked up, eyes hard. "So that's it? You're cutting me off?" "I'm drawing the line," I said. "If you want to stand on the right side of it again, it won't be through apologies. It'll be through action. Quiet ones." For years. He swallowed. I could tell he understood. "I don't need your inheritance," he said. "You already spent it," I replied. "In trust. In name. In blood I stood." My jacket felt heavier than when I walked in. "I won't bury you," I said, "but I won't let you steal what's left of me either." Then I left. Didn't look back. I drew my last boundary. It's been 3 months. The days are quiet again. Not hollow, not bitter, just mine. I spend mornings in the backyard now. The garden's coming back. Lisa helped me replant some of Evelyn's old favorites. Rosemary, lavender, simple things. The kind that grow steady if you let them. I repainted the study. Took down the modern prints Dana had hung and put back the old map I kept from college. The frame's cracked in the corner, but I never liked it perfect. It reminds me of where I started. Lisa comes by every Thursday. She brings groceries I don't ask for and never stays long enough to make it a burden. We don't talk about Eric anymore, not because we've forgotten, but because we've filed it where it belongs. Behind us. He sent a letter last week, no apology, just updates. Said he was stepping back from corporate. Said he was trying to do better. I haven't written back. Not because I'm angry, because some letters are meant to sit unread for a while. The house is still. I walk through the halls now and nothing feels borrowed. Every sound belongs. Every silence feels earned. I've locked the front gate. I've changed the banking alerts. I've cut the vines away from the mailbox. No one else has keys. And I finally sleep through the night. Not because everything's perfect, but because I know, with no question left in me, that no one's coming for what I've already claimed. I am not surrounded by things I don't recognize. Not anymore. This is my life. No signatures left to chase. No papers left to guard. No guests planning their exit routes. Just me. My breath. My land. My name. If your partner and your child plotted behind your back, who would you hold more responsible? Help me find the answer by leaving a comment with your thoughts on this topic.
My grandpa's worst really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.